That's a lot of questions I gotta get through. Hey everyone, this is Rabbit's Blog Animation Bliss, and welcome to our first ever Q&A session for this channel. So I'm hosting this Q&A session in celebration of this channel hitting over 400 subscribers. And before we get into the questions, here are a few words from the channel. Alright Animaniacs, now let's get on the social media train. Want to chat with us in 100 words or less? Then check out our Twitter account. Want to chat with us within a group? Then check out our Facebook account. Want to get the lowdown on everything dealing with animation on this channel? Then check all of the above. And now, we return to our regularly scheduled program. So, I was really surprised when this channel hit over 400 subscribers because I started this channel like about 7 or 8 years ago, and I've always wanted to start a separate channel from my main channel, Rabbit's Blog, because I wanted to talk more about animation, and I found out that when I was trying to talk about animation on my main channel, it just made my main channel so cluttered. So I decided to make a separate channel where I just talk about animation all the time, and lo and behold, Animation Bliss was created, and the channel has grown a lot since then. And I would like to thank you guys for subscribing to this channel and watching all my videos, going through all the transitions I have for this channel, and me just talking about animation in general. And I'm glad that you guys have been enjoying the content. So to reward you guys for subscribing to this channel and for watching my videos, I decided to do a special Q&A session where I made a video for you guys to ask me some questions that deal with absolutely anything. And I'm able to get the questions in, and now I'm going to spend this video answering your guys' questions that you sent over to me in the last video where I asked you guys to ask me some questions for the upcoming Q&A session. So I got a lot of questions for this Q&A session, so that's pretty awesome for me, and I can't wait to answer all these questions. So here we go. So the first question comes from Toonz, and they ask, if you could only watch animated movies from one company, which would it be? Well, for me personally, it would be Disney. I've always been a huge Disney fan, and I've always enjoyed all the animated movies they put out. So if I had to choose one channel where I could watch all cartoons on, then it would definitely be Disney. The next question from Toonz stated, out of Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network, if you could only watch one, which would it be? Also, congratulations on 400 subs. So out of all three of those channels, if it was like the 1990s, I would definitely be watching Nickelodeon. Like when I was little, I used to grow up watching Nickelodeon a lot, and they had a lot of fantastic shows in the 1990s on Nickelodeon. So that was definitely the channel I used to watch a lot when it first came out in the 1990s. But if you were to ask me which one of these channels I'd be watching now, I would definitely choose Cartoon Network. I think Cartoon Network has got a better variety of cartoons than either Nickelodeon and Disney do now. And I've really been enjoying some of the current cartoons that Cartoon Network's been putting out. So out of all three of these channels for the current days, it would definitely be Cartoon Network. The next question comes from Azariah Questions. I hope I pronounced your name right. And they ask, do you have a favorite anime? Do you have a favorite cartoon or anime inspired cartoon? Thanks for the video. So my favorite anime of all time is definitely Dragon Ball Z. I used to watch that show a lot when I was a kid, and I still enjoy watching that show to this very day. I just love all the characters in that show. My favorite characters are definitely Goku and Vegeta. I think they have the best character progression throughout the series, and the action throughout that show is very good and intense. And I just love how all the characters fight each other. So Dragon Ball Z remains to be my all-time favorite anime. And as far as my favorite anime-inspired cartoon, it would definitely be Avatar: The Last Airbender. I love that show. I think the animation for that show looks really good, and I love the anime influence of that show. It really made the show stand out from any other Western cartoon, and it's one show that I like to watch a lot because I love its themes of war and what it can do to people. So it's definitely a show that I recommend watching over and over again. And now Lulu Moppet has asked me a couple of questions, and so let's break down all of their questions and answer each one of them one by one. So the first question is, favorite animated series aimed at adults? So my favorite adult animated series are definitely Duckman and BoJack Horseman. I love Duckman because I think it was a show that was ahead of its time, and even though it doesn't really get a lot of attention, I think that the humor in that show was very clever, and I really like the antics that the characters get into. And I do like Duckman as a character because even though he's a jerk most of the time, there is a reason why he's acting like a jerk, and the show goes into great detail describing about how he lost his wife and how that affected him in the future. So I do like Duckman, and I also do like the show BoJack Horseman. Like, I'm currently watching that show right now, but so far I'm really loving everything that's going on in that show. I love how they show the dark side of Hollywood, and how you have this character named BoJack Horseman who's so cynical about life, and he spends the rest of the series trying to become a better person. So I really enjoy BoJack Horseman, and I do like Rick and Morty as well. I love the fantasy adventures that Rick and Morty go on to, but it also shows a darker side to their adventures as it affects them psychologically. So I do like that aspect of Rick and Morty. So my favorite adult anime series would definitely be Rick and Morty, BoJack Horseman, and Duckman. The next question from Lulu Moppet is, what are some animated series, movies, etc. that got hyped up by many and you just didn't see the appeal? Well, this is going to be a controversial answer, but for me, Ren and Stimpy, even though I'm not sure about how people feel about that show now, especially after what's going on with the creator. But anyway, even when I was little, I wasn't the biggest fan of Ren and Stimpy, and that's mostly because it had a lot of gross out humor, and I just didn't like gross out humor in general. Like, to this very day, I still don't care much for gross out humor, and Ren and Stimpy had a lot of it, but that was a show that a lot of people had praised back in the day. Again, I don't know how people feel about the show nowadays, but back then when it first came out, I just didn't see the appeal of the show. And that's just me personally, because it has a lot to do with gross out humor, and I just don't like gross out humor in general. The next question from Lulu Moppet is, what are some pieces of classic animated series, movies, etc. that, although you might respect for their importance, impact on the industry, you just do not personally enjoy? I'm not the biggest fan of the silent era cartoons, like the Felix the Cat cartoons, which were mostly silent, because I grew up during the time where you watch a lot of cartoons where the characters are actually talking. So watching a cartoon series that's silent wasn't my thing. Now, there were a few silent cartoons that I did like a lot of the cartoons from the Van Buren animation studio, the same studios that made Circus Capers and the Snowman. I do like those anime shorts, and those were silent era shorts. But again, I'm not the biggest fan of the silent era shorts. I mostly prefer cartoons where the characters are speaking, but that's because I grew up in an era where the characters were talking, so I wasn't used to seeing a lot of silent era cartoons. The next question from Lulu Moppet says, what are some animated series, movies, etc. that you believe are underrated? Oh man, I actually got a whole section on this channel called the Underrated and Obscure Cartoons Corner, and that's where I talk about cartoon shows that were underrated or obscure, and there's just so many to name off from the top of my head. Like, some examples I can think of from the top of my head is definitely Rabbit Ears, The Fool and the Flying Ship. I feel like that's an animated movie that a lot of people don't talk about, or a lot of people are not aware of. It was narrated by the late Robin Williams, and it was basically about a young peasant who finds a flying ship, and he invites all of these strange men to his ship, and they try to win the hand of the princess, but her father wants these crew to perform all of these difficult tasks. And that's pretty much the gist of this story, but it's one story that I always recommend to a lot of people, and one story that doesn't get a lot of attention. And then another movie that I wanted to talk about is The Nutcracker Prince. I'm surprised that this one didn't get a lot of attention, because it starred Kiefer Sutherland, a very young Kiefer Sutherland from 24, and it had him voicing the Nutcracker himself. And it's basically based off the play The Nutcracker Prince and the Mouse King, and it was a fantastic adaptation of that particular play, and a movie that I think a lot of people need to check out, especially if you're a huge fan of The Nutcracker Prince and the Mouse King play. But those are some underrated obscure animations I can think of from the top of my head. But if you want to hear more about that, check out my underrated and obscure cartoons corner list to see all the underrated and obscure cartoons that I've reviewed over the years. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, what are some video games that impress you based on their visuals and animation? So even though I never played this game before, I love the visual effects of Cuphead. I like the fact that it harkens back to the original 1930s cartoons, because I'm a huge fan of classic cartoons, and I like the fact that Cuphead was able to utilize the 1930s aesthetics of the classic cartoons. And even though I haven't played the game yet, just looking at the visuals alone is enough to make me want to play that game. And then another game that I really like the visual style for was Sonic the Hedgehog. So this could date back to any of the Sonic the Hedgehog games, but I have to pick Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I just love how their world looks. It looks so colorful and beautiful, and I just love the sprite animations done whenever they're trying to tell a story. Even though the characters are not talking, the sprite animation itself was able to tell the story very well. So I do like Sonic 3 and Knuckles for his animation and just for his visual effects as well. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, what are some animated series, movies, etc. that you would consider yourself the most knowledgeable on? So ask me any questions that deal with The Nightmare Before Christmas, The Angry Beavers, or Hey Arnold, and I will probably tell you everything you need to know about those shows. I actually did a lot of research on a lot of those shows and a lot of the movies, so if you were to ask me questions about any of those movies like The Nightmare Before Christmas or The Angry Beavers or Hey Arnold, I would definitely tell you what you need to know with those shows and movie. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, what are some animation pet peeves you have? So my biggest animation pet peeve is whenever there's like bad animation going on. Like, I hate it whenever the characters go off model. Like, for example, even though I like the original 90s X-Men series, the animation from that series drive me off the wall sometimes, because sometimes you have moments where the characters' eyes just go up from their head or goes away from their faces, and then there are times where the characters' outfits are colored the wrong way or their faces are colored the wrong way, and it just drives me crazy whenever I saw all those animation mistakes going on. And then another thing I really hate is when characters are talking, the characters' mouths don't move along with the dialogue, and it makes it seem like the characters are like talking in thin air when they just stated their lines for that particular episode, and that drives me crazy also. Like, I hate it when characters are like talking, but their mouths don't really move to the words very well, so that's something that annoys me a lot too. The next question for Lulu Moppet states, favorite romantic couples in all of animation? So my favorite romantic couples in all of animation would definitely be Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and Jack and Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas. I think both of those couples have some of the cutest relationships in all of animation. I especially love Jessica Rabbit and Roger Rabbit's relationship, as even though it seemed like Jessica cheated on Roger, it turns out that she did all this to save Roger's job, and she really loves Roger because Roger's able to make her laugh. So I do love the cute relationship between Roger and Jessica, and it shows how much they really love each other. And I also thought that the relationship between Jack and Sally from The Nightmare Before Christmas was pretty cute. Like, it seems like they both know what's going on with each other and they try to support each other, and I just thought their relationship was really cute in that movie. The next question for Lulu Moppet states, if you could create an animated series, movie, etc., what would it be about? So I'm currently working on a novel called Alien Nation, and it's basically about this young woman named Chanel who's trying to live life through an alien invasion, and she decides to become a fighter to fight against the alien forces who took over her home world. And I would like to make an animated series about that someday once I actually finish the book, but that's something I would like to see animated sometime down the line. The next question for Lulu Moppet states, favorite decades of animation? So my personal favorite decade of animation was definitely the 1990s. I felt like during this decade there was a lot more iconic animation going on. Like, you had the Disney Renaissance that happened during this decade. You have Nickelodeon have their Nicktoons start up during this decade. Like, it started up with the original 3 Nicktoons like Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, and Doug, and then you have Daria that came out the same decade. So I felt like the 1990s had some of the best animation and had some of the most iconic animation that really defined animation for future decades. So I definitely recommend any animation that came out in the 1990s. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, favorite behind the scenes production, fun fact related to any animated project? I always loved the behind the scenes look with Hey Arnold, especially when they stated that Hey Arnold was one of the first Nicktoons that used child actors to voice the characters. And then there's the history about Arnold's last name and how his last name is actually Shortman. And despite the fact the show's been saying the name for years, we don't find this out until the Jungle movie. So I was always interested with the behind the scenes look with Hey Arnold. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, any animated adaptations that you believe are better than the source material? I will always say that Shrek was way better than the book in my opinion. Like, I actually read the original children's book a few years after I watched the movie, and even though the children's book was cute, I didn't think it was as good as the movie was. Like, the movie did a good job at expanding more on Shrek's character and made Shrek much more sympathetic in the movie. And I just love all the voice actors themselves and how they brought so much life to these characters. So I definitely think that Shrek was way better than the children's book that it was based off of. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, what animated characters can you relate to the most? So in regards to the characters of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, I always found myself to be more relatable to Fluttershy because she's such a shy and nice character, and that's how I describe myself. Like, I'm very shy with people, but I'm also pretty nice, and I think Fluttershy's character really fits me very well. Another character that I relate to a lot is Penny Proud from the Proud family. Like, I used to watch the Proud family a lot when I was in middle school, and a lot of the things she goes through throughout that show really related to me a lot. And I think we were about the same age when the show first came out, so I did relate a lot to her. And then another character I related myself a lot to was Ginger Foutley from As Told by Ginger. Again, she's another middle schooler character who I relate to a lot during my middle school days, and I just enjoy seeing her adventures and just seeing how much of the situations she goes through related to the situations I went through during my phase in middle school. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, favorite animation studios? So of course Disney is my all-time favorite animation studios. I've been loving all the cartoons they've been putting out, and they just do such a fantastic job with all the animations they put out. And I also really like Pixar. I think Pixar does a fantastic job with the themes they put in their movies, and I just enjoy watching any Pixar movie that comes out. The next question from Lulu Moppet states, any cartoon crushes? I will admit that I actually took a liking to Ben Tennyson in the Ben 10 Alien Force season. Not so much when he was 10 years old, but a lot when he was grown up in Alien Force. And maybe it's because I really love Yuri Lorothal's voice for Ben. It just sounded so good. And I just love Ben Tennyson in Alien Force. And another character that I kind of had a crush on was Norbert Beaver from the Angry Beavers. I know that sounds weird, but I did kind of like the character when I was growing up. The next question for Lulu Moppet states, any dream projects that you would like a specific animated studio to tackle? Like I stated with my book Alien Nation, I would like Disney to take a crack at it, especially since now they have Marvel under their belt, so maybe Marvel could take a crack at it. And I'd like to see what Marvel could do with this concept. Like, this is basically a sci-fi action series that I'm working on, so I think it would fit very well with Marvel. So I would like to see what Disney can do with this concept that I'm creating with my book. And then the last question from Lulu Moppet states, what animated studio would you like to work at? If I'm being perfectly honest, neither. And that's because right now I don't really have a desire to do animation as a full-time job. Yes, I do a bit of animation for this channel, but I'm not doing animation as a full-time job. So in regards into what animation studio I would like to work with, right now none of them, since I don't have any desire to do any animation in the near future. So that's all the questions for this special Q&A, and I'd like to thank everybody who subscribed to this channel. I'm grateful that you guys stuck with this channel for so many years through all the transitions I did with this channel, and I'm so glad that you guys asked me all these awesome questions. It was great answering all of these questions, and I hope you guys are okay with the answers I gave you. And I have decided after making this video that for every 100 subscribers we get for this channel, I will do a special Q&A session where I ask you guys to ask me some questions, and I'll do another one of these videos again where I answer your guys' questions. And so the next Q&A video will be when we reach 600 subscribers. And you're probably wondering, well, why not at 500 subscribers? Well, because at 500 subscribers, I will be doing a special video called the Road to 1 Million Subscribers video, where I do an animated video that details the adventures of me and Gigi going on this adventure to get to 1 million subscribers. If you want to check out the animation for the very first Road to 1 Million Subscribers video, check out the one where we reach 300 subscribers for this channel. But yeah, for the Road to 1 Million Subscribers video, I do those type of videos when we reach a special milestone for the channel, like if we are able to reach 500 subscribers or 1,000 subscribers or 1,500 subscribers and so on and so forth. That I would do a Road to 1 Million Subscriber videos for those occasions. But in regards to reaching something like 600 subscribers or 800 subscribers or 900 subscribers, I would do a special Q&A video for every 100 subscribers we reach. So next Q&A video will be when we reach 600 subscribers, so stay tuned for that. Well, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for asking me all these questions. I really enjoy answering these questions, and I hope to see you guys again in the next Q&A video once we reach 600 subscribers. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rowdy's Law Animation Bliss, and I'll see you guys later. Hey animation fans, like this video? If you want to see more animated content from this channel, then please hit that big old animated subscribe button so that you can get more awesome content from this channel.